for years and years, I don't know, some of you guys have been reading my blog for a while will remember I had this little, I called it, at first it was like a zit from hell. That was my little friendly pet name for it. And it just it wouldn't go away. And so I went to my doc, which I hardly ever go to my conventional doc. So I went in just to have this checked, and he took it off right in the office, and we had it biopsied, and it was a basal cell carcinoma, which is one of the most benign and least dangerous skin cancers there is. And so because I knew what it was and that it wasn't something dangerous, I decided to play around with it because I like to be a detective. And this was way before homeopathy. And I used, well, it didn't come back for a while because it's very slow growing, but in a few months it started coming back. So I got some of this black salve online that I had heard. Sandy, you want to say something about that?
I had a basal cell up here and she wanted to send me for surgery. And I thought, no, I remembered your blog and I went and got some.
Yeah.
I put it on and she came and she saw it after it was done and she said, it's gone, but we don't know what's going on underneath. And I thought, well, I'll just wait a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's been over a year now and she checks it and she said, it's gone.
Well, and see, that's the thing. I only did this because I was sure that it was a basal cell carcinoma. It was biopsied and checked. Like if it was something else, I wouldn't probably play around with it like I did, because I don't want to die from skin cancer just because I want to play little detective games, And that's why I think conventional medicine is great sometimes. Like let's do some testing and get a real answer, So anyway, but did yours come back? Yours doesn't come back then, Sandy?
No, it was basal cell, but mine didn't.
See, mine did. Like after a few months, whatever, it would start to come back. So I just hit it again. And this went on for years. Like, I wasn't worried about it at all because it wasn't leaving any scars or anything. And it was just, so this is why I really need to update this story on the blog, because what I ended up doing is saying, you know what, it keeps coming back. It's like, apparently there must be some cells that the black salve's not getting because it's still there. And so I'm like, I'm just going to go get the whole thing cut off. And so there's this thing called the Mohs procedure. I think it's MOHS or something. And they take you in the office and they take a little bit, then they wrap it up, and you go out in the waiting room while they check it under the microscope and see if the margins are clear. If they're clear, bye-bye, you're done. And if they're not clear, they come back and take a little bit more. It's supposed to not be very invasive, or less invasive, because they only take what they need to get the margins clear. So he did the first part. I'm in the waiting room. I come back and I'm looking at it. And okay, when I went in, it was literally the end of a pen, like a ballpoint pen. That's how big it was, the very end of a ballpoint pen. And when I'm looking, he had taken a nickel size gouge out of my chin. And I'm like, what in the heck? It was a tiny little piece. But I'm like, well, and later I was so ticked when I thought about it. I'm like, what, he wanted to get home fast that day, so he just took a bigger chunk than I thought the whole point was to take the smallest amount possible. So because of that, he had to take a big chunk. I still, as this very moment, I still feel the nerve damage in my lip from that, because he had to cut a piece of my lip out. Thankfully, like now when I smile, for a long time I smiled and I was like, it was all crooked, and I'm like, am I ever gonna have a normal smile again? So now it's normal again. I just feel the nerve, the numbness in a spot, because he had to do all this crap to get my smile normal again. Because when you take a big gouge out of your chin, you can't just sew that up because it's gonna make your face all disfigured. So anyway, I'm trying to make the story a little shorter, but I'm not doing well. As I'm laying there in the chair and he's sewing me up, he's telling me that, it's protocol. We put everyone on an antibiotic when they leave because there's so many bugs in the mouth. It's just a safety precaution. And I go, yeah. I said, I don't know if I'm going to do that. He's like, what? Why? He said, we had one guy who came back with a terrible mouth infection, and he had to have major surgery, and it was months. He was a mess from that. And you really should, as a precaution, you don't want to get a mouth infection. Trust me, you don't want to, and I'm like, okay. And I thought, you know what, screw him. I'm not going to tell him anymore. And so they started to write me a script. They're like, where's your favorite pharmacy? We'll just call it in. I go, oh no, can you just write it on the paper? I'll just take it in when I go. And then of course I never filled it, but they scare you. That's how they do it. They scare the crap out of you. But I'm like, I can do this. You have to have courage. So I went home and I took all the things with homeopathy. I took the heparin, and I took hypericum for nerve healing. And never got an infection, thanks be to God, and everything was fine. But they just try to scare you into, I'm like, why would I put my health, my gut health, and my whole body health at risk for something
Yes.
that might happen? Now, if I had a raging infection, then I'm going to be thankful that we have antibiotics, but I'm not going to take them because I might get an infection.